What's up, guys? I'm DK Wrestler, and in today's video, I'm going to be listing off my top 10 favorite Funko Pops that were announced throughout the month of April 2025. And I'm not going to lie, this was a very difficult list because this may have been one of the most lackluster months as terms to Funko Pop announcements. But if you end up enjoying this type of content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But nonetheless, let's start off this list. Which, kicking off at number 10 on this list is the Shaquille O'Neal with Backboard Pop Deluxe from the NBA lineup. Now, normally, I'm not a fan of the NBA Pops, not only because they make so many of the same players, but also using the same moldings every time with the same posings or even the same players, but just adding a different colored jersey. But this is actually a very refreshing and unique pop for the NBA lineup because it's taking a very memorable moment that has actually happened multiple times with Shaquille O'Neal because of how big he is. And I think they executed this pretty decently for a Funko Pop. Not entirely the biggest fan of the NBA lineup, which is why it's at the bottom of the list, but I thought I would add it onto this top 10 list though. Coming in at number 9 on my list is the 6-inch Mangle from Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, of course, I believe this year, or maybe it was last year, I don't exactly remember, was the 10-year anniversary for Five Nights at Freddy's, so you know there was going to be a lot of pops coming out for this set. The 6-inch Mangle kind of stood out to me. The way they executed it does look really nicely with basically the face on the one hand and even the missing hand on the one mechanical arm. I don't really play Five Nights at Freddy's, nor do I think I've actually ever played Five Nights at Freddy's, so that's why it's at the bottom of the list or near the bottom of the list, because I don't really have much of a personal reaction towards this. Coming in at number 8 on my list is the damaged box from the April Fool's Series 3 Funko NFT set. Now, I do think that this is a pretty funny pop in a way, considering that a lot of us have dealt with damaged boxes when it comes to buying pops, whether from drop.io when getting them shipped out or through the Funko shop themselves with the regular release. But now they've taken the joke of it by actually having it damaged with the band-aid on the head, giving the thumbs up that it's still partially okay, and I like the added attention to the detail that the box would be for Max Tokenhead, who is the mascot for Drop and a character that I've been waiting for them to do a redeemable Funko Pop for quite a bit now, but have never really pulled the trigger on it. And although I thought about adding this really high up onto the list because of how much I do enjoy this pop, I do think that as terms to licensors that I like better and kind of my resentment of how my results ended up turning out with that April Fool's NFT drop, that I thought I would keep it near the bottom of the list, but at least add it to the list. Coming in at number 7 on my list is the Fanatics exclusive Cody Rhodes for the WWE lineup. Now, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record when saying this, but of course, me being DK Wrestler, you know that a WWE pop would make it to this list one way or another. And I do like the idea of where this came from because, of course, this was Cody Rhodes' entrance during last year's WrestleMania right before he got to finish the story. And I think they did a great job as terms to the detail of this. I actually wonder now, after seeing his attire from this year at WrestleMania 41 with the whole Iron Man mask version of the attire, that maybe next year we'll actually get a Cody Rhodes Funko Pop with that attire when WrestleMania 42 rolls around. Although I do think that this is a pretty decent pop, I do think that the other two previous pops of the Walmart exclusive Cody Rhodes and the Cody with torn pet common are much better looking pops than this one. I think this one could have been a little bit better as terms to maybe posing or something else, but it just doesn't gravitate towards me as the other two Cody Rhodes pops have in the past. Coming in at number 6 on my list is the Gundam Epion from the Gundam series. Now, like I mentioned in whatever episode of this week in Funko Pop or Collectibles News, when I added this to the top 5 list, it really could have been any of the 3 Gundam pops because of the amount of detail that are put within all 3 of these pops. I just specifically chose this one because of the different colors that are added to it, but really it could have been any one of these because these are some really detailed pops. Coming in at number 5 on my list is the Funko Shop exclusive glow-in-the-dark chase of Muichiro Tokido from Demon Slayer. Now, of course, once again, don't know if I pronounced that right because I don't know too much about anime. And I could have realistically went with one or the other because of the detail of the pop, but I thought, you know what, might as well add the glow in the dark because of how nice the glow looks here. I'm sure that you're probably gonna really have to charge this up because of the fact that blue isn't always the greatest color when it comes to glow in the dark with a really nice charge up like green would be. But because I don't know too much about Demon Slayer besides one season that I have watched of the series, I feel like this can't be any higher than number 5 on my list, but thought I would throw it up there because of the detail. Coming in at number 4 on my list is the Master Roshi with Kame House Pop Town from Dragon Ball. Now this is a pretty sweet pop, and especially the fact that we're getting a pop town for the first time in a little while. Of course, the town itself does look really nice with the house being pink and of course the palm trees in the background, but like I had mentioned when I had talked about this pop previously, the fact that you're getting more of a deluxe form with the Master Roshi, considering that he's standing on top of the turtle. So I do think this is pretty cool, and I do love the fact that Funko is giving love to the original Dragon Ball instead of repeating either Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super. Coming in at number 3 on my list is the Fanatics exclusive Alexander Ovetchkin for the NHL lineup. Never have I thought that I was going to add a Washington Capitals pop onto a top 10 list, considering Pittsburgh Penguins, their rival, is my favorite NHL team. But this is actually one of the better looking NHL pops that we've gotten in the last little while, with a more new posing, and especially with the Ovetchkin pops having a mouth to it, and then the added addition of the gray hair that he currently has. And of course, this pop was made because of Ovi having broken the record of Wayne Gretzky with the most goals in NHL history. And with how lackluster April has been, like I mentioned in the intro, this was one of the highlights as terms to announcements, and I believe my co-host MD Shady did end up pre-ordering this on the Fanatics website. Coming in at number 2 on my list is Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Now, of course, King of the Hill definitely had to make it high up on this list, considering that a lot of us have been wanting pops for this TV series for such a long time. And the way that they did Hank Hill is absolutely perfect, with like the wrinkle on his head, the way they did his expression without having the mouth, and of course having his alcoholic beverage in his hand with his one hand in his pocket. And this is one of those pops that if you didn't really want to get the entire set, but you were only looking for maybe a couple, this probably would be the number 1 priority for you to actually add into your collection right away from King of the Hill. And if you've been watching this series for a while, you know that coming up next will be the usual honorable mentions before I discuss what number 1 will be on this list. Today I wanted to give a shout out to Sentinel 107, and the reason I'm giving them a shout out is because they signed up for our YouTube channel membership, which only cost $1.99 a month, which not only do you get a shout out on every single video, but you also get a bunch of other perks like using custom emojis in the comments, and more importantly, early access to every videos and shorts that we do on this channel. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It'll be greatly appreciated and will help out this channel tremendously, especially because of how expensive these videos can be to do for you guys. So definitely consider, but nonetheless, let's continue on with this video. Starting off with the first honorable mention on this list, I'm just gonna say it right here, is the rest of the King of the Hill set. Now, I didn't want to flood this list too much with King of the Hill, even though this was pretty much one of the biggest highlights, maybe even the biggest highlight to a lot of people throughout the month of April's Funko Pop reveals. And I really wanted to add the Hank with the lawnmower, which I'm sure a lot of people would probably say is their favorite pop this past month. But my biggest gripe, and has been a huge gripe within the last year or two, is Funko's tendency of making a small pop but charging you a lot of money because of the size of the box. The next honorable mention on my list is the Samurai Kylo Ren from Star Wars. The way that they've executed all these pops are pretty decent, that it's not really the worst we have seen of Funko. And the way they did the Kylo Ren is pretty sweet also, where he does have the helmet from The Rise of Skywalker where it's a little bit cracked, but making the sword completely covered in flames, so it gives that samurai effect, but also looking like a lightsaber at the same time. And the last honorable mention on my list is pink for the Pop Rocks lineup. lineup. And I heavily debated on adding this pop to the list because this is a very big refresher as terms to the Pop Rocks lineup because we've never had a Pop of Pink previously. And now, coming in at number 1 on my list is the exclusive chatter telephone for the Retro Toys lineup. This thing is absolutely fire, and this had a lot of people excited. One thing I really enjoy about this pop also is the placement in the box where it is tilted up to see the whole thing, rather than if it was showing the face in the box, they probably would have had to make this a sideways box. This is the one pop that was announced this month that I am actually considering getting, considering that chatter telephone did make an appearance in Toy Story 3.